The next item on our recommended list is management protocols. And we want to make sure that we are using secure versions of the management protocols that are available. If I polled a group of individuals and asked them if they are using SNMP, the majority would say yes. However, we would find out through additional discussion that majority are still using SNMP version 2. And that is not a good thing. And the reason why is because SNMP version 2, although it provides authentication, it's very weak authentication using community strings. And these strings are plain text. And there is no encryption offered. So there's not a whole lot of protection we have. There's not a whole lot of privacy we have. With SNMP version 3, we get authentication through the use of MD5 hashing or SHA-1 hashing, so we can verify at a higher level, a higher degree, that the device we are communicating with is a legitimate device. Privacy is going to be offered through encryption algorithms, DES, triple DES, or AES. However, SNMP version 3 can be deployed in 3 different ways. You can deploy it with the access mode of no auth, no priv. No auth, no priv means that we are using authentication with just usernames, and there's no encryption at all. If you use auth, no priv, then for authentication you'd be using MD5 or SHA-1 hashes, and there's still no encryption. However, if you deploy it as auth priv, AUTH-PRIV, auth priv, then your authentication is based on MD5 or SHA-1, whatever you choose, and then your encryption is going to be based on DES, triple DES, or AES. So even though SNMP is more secure than SNMP version 2 or version 1, it's still up to you to deploy it in a very secure fashion. In addition, if you are not using SNMP version 3, you're using SNMP version 2 as an example. When you utilize your community strings or you implement community strings, you should really consider using different community strings for your get methods, your set methods, and your traps. Well, what is set and what is get? Well, set is referring to setting parameters on that managed device from the network management server. So you are configuring the router. So it's important that we have communities for that. And get requests are when you want to get information from the MIB. Traps are sent, they're pushed from the router to the network management server when a condition happens or an issue arises. At that point in time, the router recognizes that problem and immediately sends it to the network management server. It's not waiting for the network management server to come and get it, to pull it from the router. So it's important to use the different community strings in those cases. Why? Just to give you an added layer of security. That's really all it's about. So if we look at SNMP version 2 as an example, not version 3, but version 2, you can see here that you are setting up your community string. And this community string is listed here as CI5CO admin, and it's the read-only community string. Read-only, not read-write. So in this case, you can only read, only pull the information from the MIB. You can't actually set any information on the device from the network management station. The command by itself at that point is not secure enough for today's environments. We need to add an access control list to the end of this command. And that access control list defines who is allowed to connect to us with this particular community string and read the information from the management information base. So the access list here is saying that only the host with an IP address of 10.123 is allowed to use this read-only community string and pull information from our MIB. The middle command is used for the sending of traps. The sending of traps. So if all of a sudden an issue occurred on our router, our CPU threshold was too high, we could send a message to the SNMP server before its regularly scheduled polling interval where it comes and gets information from us. So now we're pushing the information to the SNMP server, and we are specifying here SNMP server host 10123. So in this case, it's the same server, but notice that we're using a different password in this case. So when we send traps, we have a different password to send those traps, and when the server is coming to get information from our MIB, it's using a different password to do that. So this heightens the level of security per se. It's not a great way to heighten the level of security, but it ensures that if one of these passwords are compromised, well, the other one is not compromised at that point in time. So we're only dealing with an issue one way, not with the entire SNMP setup that we have within our organization. And don't forget about this ACL. That's an important addition to make sure that you are controlling who's allowed to grab that information from the management information base.